Myst, Might, Mayhem. By Han Jung Leolia. Side Story 3. The Flame Mountain. Part 1. Maihiku, Jilin Province. There was a hole about 20 jang in size on one of its cliffs. The hole was so deep that it was called a bottomless pit from which one could never climb back up if they fell in, and it was said that no one had ever reached its bottom. Although it seemed there would be nothing at the bottom of Maihiku where not even a speck of light reached, there was something snoring there. Snore. 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 Its snoring was so loud that it shook the surroundings. The regular snoring sound that had been continuing for a while suddenly stopped. Then white glowing eyes opened. The chilling white glowing eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for something. Then, whoosh! Flames erupted, brightening the surroundings. The flames revealed the form of the being with the white glowing eyes. It was a huge, grotesque monkey with a purple face covered in white fur. However, this giant monkey's arms and legs were bound by rusted iron chains, making it look difficult to move properly. It was here. At that moment, along with the voice, someone appeared from within the flames. Seeing that being, the giant monkey with white eyes prostrated itself on the ground. Boom! Though it merely struck its head on the ground, the surroundings shook as if an earthquake had occurred. Seeing this, the red-haired beautiful boy who appeared from the flames raised the corner of his mouth and spoke. White Ghost King. So you were still here? As soon as those words ended, the giant monkey with white eyes called the White Ghost King suddenly wailed as if in sorrow. Wah wah. The surroundings echoed. To this. Stop wailing. Wah. I've been waiting only for this day. Is he forgiving me now? The one you searched can't forgive you or do anything else. What do you mean? The white-faced king, no, that fox bitch turned him into stone. How dare you? Boom. At the red-haired beautiful boy's words, the white ghost king with white eyes struck the ground with both fists, his face terribly distorted. The ground split and tremendous winds swept in all directions. Even the surrounding walls crumbled from the storm-like winds. Boom. Boom. He continued striking the ground, showing no signs of stopping. Enough. At the red-haired beautiful boy's shout, the white ghost king stopped with an enraged face. Growling. Where the hell is that damn fox bitch? Looking at the white ghost king who couldn't calm his excitement, the red-haired beautiful boy smirked and answered. She'll come looking for me on her own soon. Then should I tear that fox bitch apart for his sake? No. You have something else to do. Give me any order. I'm willing to do anything for the great sage equaling heaven. The red boy. Red boy. Red boy? Yes. Hong Hei. As the name suggests, it means red child. Even the heavenly demon, who had read all the divination technique ancient books possessed by Zhou Tiqiang, another three eyes, was hearing this name for the first time. To this, diviner Yeo Suren said. Just as there are heroes forgotten as time passes, there were beings among the Imi who were infamous in ancient times. This red boy can be considered one of those Imi. Why is an Imi that had disappeared even from records suddenly appearing to try and break Great Strength King's seal? I'm not certain, but there's something like this in an ancient book. It said there is one Imi who inherited Great Strength King's bloodline, and that. Is that red boy? Yes. This is written in one of the ancient books, the Unbroken Summary. Near the Flame Mountain, in Mount Suiyun, there is a spirit beast called the Iron Fan Immortal, and the Imi born from her passionate union with Great Strength King, turning the surroundings into a wasteland, is none other than Red Boy. This Imi born in the Flame Mountain which could be called flames all year round, is said to be the very incarnation of fire. The heavenly demon, who had been listening to Yeo Suren's story, interrupted to ask, is he strong? Didn't I just tell you? He even managed to trouble for a moment the Imi born from a stone where all the energy of heaven and earth converged. How strong is that Imi born from the converged energy of heaven and earth? Is it at a similar level to Great Strength King? Don't you know the legend of Mount Wuji on Hainan Island? Mount Wuji? There is a large mountain on Hainan Island said to be in the shape of 5 fingers. The people living there call that mountain Mount Wuji, 5-Finger Mountain. The heavenly demon knew most of the well-known place names in the Central Plains, having wandered around to avenge his grandfather. However, knowing the place names doesn't necessarily mean knowing the legends related to those regions. What's the legend of Mount Wuji? The people living on Mount Wuji believe that mountain is the hand of the Tathagata. Tathagata? Shakyamuni Buddha? Yes. Shakyamuni Buddha is the founder of Buddhism and the Buddha himself. Although there are many venerable ones and Tathagatas in Buddhism, Shakyamuni Buddha was the first and pioneer. Why do they believe it's Shakyamuni Buddha's hand? In the local legend of Mount Wuji, it's said that an Imi born from the convergence of heaven and earth's energy was trapped under that mountain. Although it's not known exactly what that Imi was called, ancient books referred to it as the Stone Monkey or the Railing Monkey King. Railing Monkey King. Was it sealed in Mount Wuji? Yes. That Railing Monkey King was born in a stone where heaven and earth's energy converged and was so strong that it was called a calamity even the heavens feared at the time. Everywhere it moved brought destruction, so all the immortals who couldn't bear to watch tried everything to seal that Imi but couldn't do anything about it. Then why is Shakyamuni Buddha related to the legend of Mount Wuji? When the immortals couldn't do anything with their own power, they asked for help from Buddha Shakyamuni, who was known to have understood all the principles. That's why in the legend, it's said that Shakyamuni Buddha descended as a spirit god, breaking the natural order, and sealed that Imi. As she said this, she made a gesture of pressing down on the ground with her palm. It seemed she was indicating that Mount Wuji was in that shape. So that's Mount Wuji. That's right. Ancient books say that Imi had such invincible strength that it was called the worst and strongest among the Imi that had existed since the time of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. There are even stories that say even Great Strength King was no match for it. So you're saying this red boy, who is said to be of Great Strength King's bloodline, is strong enough to have troubled even that Railing Monkey King? At the heavenly demon's question, Yeo-Suren nodded worriedly. If the ancient books are correct. So it's not just comparable to the 6 demons, but could be even beyond that. That's what worries me. Even without Great Strength King, said to have the greatest strength among the 6 demons, the other 6 demons were great calamities that could cause the downfall of a country. She too remembered, having fought against White Phoenix Demon King during the Great War between the righteous and unorthodox sects. It was truly a horrible nightmare. The only fortunate thing was that there was a greater countermeasure right in front of him. She had already witnessed his tremendous might with her own eyes. He surpasses even those 6 demons. However, the danger scale of Imi can't be simply calculated based on transmitted records. I know how strong you are, cult leader, but if this being really is Red Boy, it would be best to be careful. I have no intention of being careless. The opponent was an Imi with enough intelligence to try to move the heavenly demon to get what it wanted. At that level, regardless of strength, if he was careless, the damage to the surroundings could be great. Now that he had many precious things, the heavenly demon was more wary of them getting hurt than himself. That's why he wanted to resolve this as quickly as possible, but the problem is the golden 9-tailed fox. She had disappeared without a trace a few months ago. He had forgotten about her, thinking it was good riddance since he was annoyed by her constant advances, but now he couldn't even sense a trace of her demonic power, wondering where on earth she had disappeared to. So the heavenly demon asked, just in case, "Do you know where the lava cave is?" At this question, Diviner Yeo-Suren shook her head. She too didn't know where the lava cave was. "I don't know. Ancient books mention that it ate humans at Gusangan in 600 Re Diamond Head Mountain, but 600 Re Diamond Head Mountain. It was a mountain he had never heard of before. The fact that even the heavenly demon, who knew almost all place names, had never heard of it meant it must be an ancient name that was no longer known. At that moment, Chong Ryong said, "Why don't we have Miss Yeo find out what that place name is called now?" My husband and I will look for the golden nine-tailed fox. If we find the golden nine-tailed fox, we might end up breaking Great Strength King's seal as well. Diviner Yeo Surin was concerned about this. If they were led around as the opponent wanted, it could lead to the worst outcome. To this, the heavenly demon looked at the cliff wall and said, I can't leave Aliu to die. But cult leader. That's an Imi-Manjiang. What difference does it make whether it's an Imi-Manjiang or a human? At these words from the heavenly demon, Yeo Surin pressed her lips shut. She understood that he wasn't saying there was no difference between humans and Imi-Manjiang, but that it belonged to him. Sigh. I understand. Then I'll return to the Harmonious Immortal Pavilion to check if my master has returned and find out what the current name of 600 Re Diamond Head Mountain is. Please take this with you. Yeo Surin took something out from her bosom. It was a magical tool that could be worn on a finger. This is? The heavenly demon had received a similar magical tool from diviner Yeo Surin before as a result of a bet. It was a magical tool that could create a gateway to cross space. You remember the one I gave you before, right? This is one I made following my master's method of creating magical tools. It can only be used once, but in exchange, there's no distance limit. No distance limit? Yes, but the destination is predetermined. Where is the destination? The headquarters of the heavenly demon divine cult. I connected it there when I visited. At her words, the heavenly demon nodded in satisfaction and put the magical tool in his bosom. No matter how quickly he could fly using the ability to travel through the void, nothing was as useful as this. It could save that much time, after all. Then I'll head to the Harmonious Immortal Pavilion. She took out the large brush she was carrying on her back and was about to draw a circle in the air. At that moment, the great commander of the guards Go Chan, who had been quietly listening to their conversation, hurriedly said, Diviner Yeo, please wait a moment. What should I do about my master? I followed Diviner Yeo here somehow, but... After listening to their conversation, it seemed this wasn't a problem he could solve by following along and assisting this time. Rather, it felt like he might become a burden. At Go Chan's words, the heavenly demon shrugged and then asked Yeo Surin, can you take them back to where they were originally? Alright. After sending Go Chan and Ha Chairan back to the flying killing sect where they were originally, diviner Yeo Surin opened another gateway and returned to the Harmonious Immortal Pavilion. After she left, Chang Rang asked, Dear, but how do we find the golden nine-tailed fox? Well, if she had deliberately hidden herself, there was no way to find her. They couldn't search the entire Central Plains one by one, so they had to think of a method, but suddenly the heavenly demon thought of a certain place. The Flame Mountain. The Flame Mountain? Isn't that the place Miss Yeo mentioned earlier? The Flame Mountain. Certainly, it was said that Great Strength King and a spirit beast called the Iron Fan Immortal had a passionate union near there on Mount Suiyun, and Red Boy was born. Then there might be a clue there. Fortunately, there was a place called the Flame Mountain in Xinjiang. We should go there first. If there was a place called 600 Re Diamond Head Mountain near the Flame Mountain, they might be able to find it with his expanded sense of energy. Side Story 3. The Flame Mountain. Part 2. In the southern desert region of Tibet. In a place full of sand where the view was blurred by heat haze, a golden-haired woman of unparalleled beauty with 9 golden tails was glaring at something with a sweat-soaked face. Around her, about 30 giant spirit soldiers with pure white forms lacking facial features surrounded her. Of course, if you counted the spirit soldiers lying on the ground, there would be close to 100. However, except for the 30, none of the spirit soldiers were in their complete form. Damn it. A harsh sound erupted from the mouth of the golden-haired beauty, or rather, the white-faced king, the golden nine-tailed fox. She was genuinely annoyed. She had been fighting these things for over half a month now, but as soon as she knocked them down, they would return to their original state within half an incense stick's time, resulting in an endless battle. 2 spirit soldiers rushed towards her simultaneously. In response, light orbs formed on 2 of her 9 tails, which then transformed into beams of light that pierced through the chests and heads of the two spirit soldiers. Boom! Boom! As the two spirit soldiers fell, the others rushed in as if they had been waiting. Seeing this, the golden nine-tailed fox spun her body and scattered her tail hairs imbued with demonic power towards the spirit soldiers. Pack. As if familiar with her attack, the spirit soldiers in the front line raised shields to block this while charging forward, and the other spirit soldiers behind them rotated their spears to create sharp whirlwinds and attacked her. TCH. The golden nine-tailed fox hurriedly struck the ground with her palm. The surrounding sand surged like waves, blocking the whirling spears of the spirit soldiers. Their spears were no ordinary force. When they collided with the wave-like sand, sparks flew everywhere due to the friction. Eventually, their spears tried to pierce through the sand. At this, the golden nine-tailed fox, thinking this wouldn't do, attempted to manifest her true form. But then, Wung! The light that had been coloring her body golden suddenly disappeared, and her demonic power was rapidly depleted. At this strange phenomenon, she abandoned manifesting her true form and used her 9 tails to wrap around the spears thrusting towards her, then slammed them down. Quack 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 quang. The bodies of the spirit soldiers, slammed to the ground multiple times along with their spears, went limp. However, she couldn't be happy at all about their state. This is getting ridiculous. This was because she could see other spirit soldiers who had been lying down behind them getting up, completely fine. The problem was their infinite recovery. She wanted to turn them to dust and completely annihilate them, but whenever she tried to do something that required a lot of demonic power or tried to change into her true form, her demonic power would be rapidly depleted. The reason for this was due to this unknown thing imprisoning her. Walls so transparent that even her demon eye couldn't perceive them. This seemed to be a strange formation created by the general-like figure with a strong build who had appeared before her half a month ago. He held a huge sword in his right hand and a small pagoda in his left, and as soon as he saw her, he immediately said, "So you're the golden nine-tailed fox." What? She had disguised herself using transformation techniques and was even concealing her demonic power, but this unknown person who recognized her at once made her feel strongly wary, and she tried to subdue him in one breath. However, not only did he block her attack, but when he raised his hand holding the pagoda, that small thing suddenly grew larger, then disassembled and trapped her like building walls around her. And at some point, the walls trapping her became transparent, and these giant spirit soldiers appeared. If only my demonic power wasn't being absorbed, I could return to my true form. The problem was that she couldn't do that. She had managed to hold out somehow because she had mastered methods to recover her demonic power on her own, besides through terror and fear, but it was a vicious cycle. The spirit soldiers were endlessly recovering and didn't tire, while she was gradually becoming exhausted. She needed to find some way out. Meanwhile, unseen by her, there were 2 figures watching this from about 30 jang away. One was the general-like figure with a strong build who had trapped her here, and the other was someone wrapped in black clothes, their face barely visible. The general-like figure spoke to the black-clothed being beside him. "As you can see, she's no ordinary being." "It seems so. She's been fighting with the giant spirit soldiers for over half a month while trapped in the pagoda, and her spirit still hasn't died. I was planning to drag her away after depleting her demonic power to some extent, but it looks like it will take more time." "Didn't you intervene directly?" "Do you think I didn't?" As he said this, the general-like figure showed his left arm. The armor on his left arm was broken, and his clothes were stained with blood, with even a splint applied. "My arm was broken after just a few exchanges. I didn't know there was still an Imi Manjiang with this level of power left in the mortal world. Even in the world before heroes and immortals departed, she was a being who caused as much uproar as that stone monkey. It couldn't be easy. Still, she couldn't be as bad as that stone monkey. That was, the worst." The general-like figure clicked his tongue and shook his head as if he didn't even want to recall it. To him, the black-clothed being smirked and said, "Does it still make your teeth chatter?" You think only my teeth would chatter? How could I forget the ordeal from back then? Anyway, what's important isn't the past. If we don't retrieve it quickly, an even greater calamity will occur. How could I not know? Keep tracking it and somehow subdue that fox inside. She'll be very useful. The Flame Mountain in Xinjiang. Vast ridges that looked as if they were made of hardened piles of sand stretched out. This place was called the Flame Mountain because in ancient times, a spark that fell from the sky caused a forest fire that wouldn't extinguish. The flames that wouldn't go out even when it rained were finally consumed by a sudden gale one day. After that, the Flame Mountain became a bare mountain where not even a blade of grass would grow. Not far from this Flame Mountain, there exists a place called Mount Suiyun. Unlike the Flame Mountain, which was a barren rocky mountain due to the aftermath of the flames, Mount Suiyun was full of vegetation and animals, and looked as if people could pass through, but in reality, it was rarely visited by humans. This was due to the strange rumors that there had been Immimanjiang that ate people on Mount Suiyun since ancient times. In fact, it was hard to consider these just strange rumors. This was because countless people who had entered Mount Suiyun in the past had gone missing. As a result, Mount Suiyun became a forbidden mountain where people couldn't enter, and it grew more gloomy and desolate as days passed. In the deepest part of this Mount Suiyun, deep within that incredibly dark place, there was a cave. Near the entrance wall of the cave, it was engraved, Plantain Leaf Cave. It seemed to be the name given to the cave, and from the darkness where it seemed there wouldn't be a single human presence, boisterous sounds suddenly began to be heard. It was incredibly noisy, as if a feast was taking place, and as one went further inside, a huge cavern appeared, and within it stood a massive structure reminiscent of a fortress. Thud thud. And around it, large green monsters that looked like they were guarding it were walking around here and there, carrying huge wooden clubs. Inside the structure, red curtains were hanging here and there, and pillars were supporting the ceiling, revealing a wide hall. Keek keek keek. Qua. Crackle. Surprisingly, inside were grotesque Immimanjiang, numbering over 300 individuals. And each one of them had an extraordinary aura, seeming to be Immimanjiang of considerable rank. Among the Immimanjiang, there were also those in human form, and they were excitedly chattering about something that seemed to please them greatly. Kuahahaha. Our young master has returned, what a joyous occasion this is. Damn, the days of hiding from human eyes are finally over. Once our young master breaks Great Strength King's seal, the era of humans will end, and our world will come again. Let's bring humans and brew wine with their fresh blood, and hold a feast for 3 days and nights. Keek keek keek. That's a great idea. Thud. At the sound that strongly shook the floor, the gazes of the noisily chattering Immimanjiang all turned towards the highest seat in the hall. On the highest seat sat a beautiful noble lady wearing a green skirt and a lavish purple top. Despite her appearance that captivated attention and her fairy-like adornments, the woman with somewhat fierce eyes had the spirit of a female warrior. Strangely, the Immimanjiang who had been so excited and noisy were now watching her carefully. The woman's voice echoed through the now quiet hall. Is this all that have gathered? At her question, an Immimanjiang in human form with owl-like whiskers and wings, who was below the highest seat's platform, approached, paid his respects, and said, "Please forgive us, Iron Fan Immortal." Forgive? Huh. It's laughable that you find this situation amusing. When he was ruling the world, thousands and tens of thousands gathered to follow him, but how pathetic is this? The atmosphere became not just solemn, but frigid. The woman called the Iron Fan Immortal was not satisfied with this situation. Despite announcing that her beloved child had returned and her husband's revival was not far off, she was rather angry that only this many had gathered. No matter how much things had changed from the past, where on earth were all those numerous subordinates of his, not gathering? They'd lost their fear because he was sealed. At this point, she thought that when her husband was freed from the seal, he should discipline them. At that moment, an Immimanjiang in human form with long gray hair and narrow eyes carefully spoke up. Iron Fan Immortal. The kindred gathered here are all those in Xinjiang. So you're saying no one outside of Xinjiang responded to my call? That's not it. If that's not it, what are you trying to say? I had never left Xinjiang before, so I didn't know, but I recently visited Qinghai province and found that our kindred have almost disappeared. Our kindred have almost disappeared? Yes. So I inquired about it, and it seems there was a great war near the southern part of the Central Plains a year ago. It said that many of our kindred were annihilated then. Are you talking about when he briefly awakened? It seems so. How massive a war could it have been for so many of our kindred to be annihilated in a battle with mere humans? I don't know the details. What's certain is that he, who had just been freed from the seal, participated in that war, and as you know, the white-faced king. Kwang. That damn fox bitch. With a shrill voice, at just one gesture from her, a large hole appeared in the floor of the hall. She too knew this from what she had heard from that child. That fox bitch had turned her husband into a killing stone. She could never forgive this. When my red child awakens him and brings him back, I will personally peel off that fox bitch's flesh bit by bit and not even her bones. She was firmly determined for that day. But it was at that moment. Crackle. The pillars supporting the hall shook, and from above, dust fell along with cracks forming in the ceiling, and stone fragments rained down. At this, the Imi-Manjiang looked at her with eyes full of fear. One of the Iron Fan Immortal's eyebrows raised. Although she had expressed great anger, she hadn't released any demonic power just now. So what on earth was happening? At that moment, Pack. An Imi-Manjiang in the form of a horned wolf walking on all fours rushed into the hall and hurriedly reported to her. Iron Fan Immortal. Right now, an unidentified human has appeared outside the banana leaf cave and is indiscriminately killing our kindred. What? Have humans brought an army? And no. There's only one human. -1? What nonsense is this now? Is he saying that just one human has appeared, entered Mount Zueyun, and is causing havoc? Even if the kindred outside were somewhat inferior in rank, they weren't weak enough to be defeated by a mere human. Could it be that not an ordinary human, but an ancient immortal has appeared? No. That can't be. The immortals left the world long ago and should no longer be able to intervene in mortal affairs. It was at that moment. Kwang. With a huge boom from the entrance of the hall, one of the large green monsters flew in and was embedded into the floor. At this sight, the wolf-formed Imi-Manjiang muttered with a bewildered expression. Huh? He's already come this far? It was too fast, even for being fast. There were dozens of green monsters guarding just the entrance of the banana leaf cave. Thud thud. Then, they saw someone walking in from the entrance. It was a beautiful human with an extraordinary aura. A huge bear-formed Imi-Manjiang at the entrance, with power reaching that of a demonic beast, roared and charged towards that being. Kur. How dare a mere human enter here so brazenly? Kung. But at that very moment, the being walking forward casually waved his hand to the side as if annoyed. Then, surprisingly, the charging bear-formed Imi-Manjiang, as if it had hit something invisible. Pang! Kwang! Was flung sideways and smashed into the hall wall. At this sight, silence fell over the hall for a moment. What on earth just happened? As they were surprised, the beautiful human who had sent the demonic beast-level Imi-Manjiang flying with just a wave of his hand spoke in a dry voice. Who is Red Boy? The beautiful human was none other than the heavenly demon. Side Story 3. The Flame Mountain. Part 3. The heavenly demon suddenly appeared in the great hall of the plantain leaf cave. For a moment, silence fell due to his incomprehensible strength that was hard to believe was human. However, it didn't last long. Who is Red Boy? Boom. As soon as that question ended, the Iron Fan Immortal, who had been sitting on the stone throne at the highest seat, stood up abruptly and shouted. Who are you? She had already been wary of the heavenly demon who appeared suddenly. But when the first words out of his mouth were asking about her child, she began to suspect he might be an immortal. I asked first, still in a dry voice. But the content was so arrogant that the Iron Fan immortal felt anger surging up in an instant. At this, she gave an order. Make that insolent fool kneel before me immediately. As soon as her order fell, the hall that had been filled with silence became noisy with roars. Quirr. Crackle. Quah. The Immimanjiang, who roared as if to raise their morale, all charged towards the heavenly demon at once, exuding sharp claws and energy imbued with demonic power. Each was a huge demonic beast over 10 chi, tall, and their momentum was so fierce that ordinary people would be frozen in fear or wet themselves, but the heavenly demon's expression remained utterly calm. Kukukukukukung. The heavenly demon, watching them charge fiercely, slightly lifted his foot and then stepped down towards the ground. At that moment, a wave-like ripple spread out from where he stepped. What happened next was astonishing. The Immimanjiang, who had been charging up to close range, suddenly stopped as if they had hit something. What? But that wasn't the end of it. The stopped Immimanjiang started convulsing on the spot, then foamed at the mouth and collapsed. Thud thud. Thud. Seeing dozens of Immimanjiang of at least demonic beast rank or higher fall without being able to do anything, the Iron Fan immortal who was watching this felt her eye corners tremble. What on earth did he do? Why did they collapse like that when he didn't do anything? As she wondered. You seem to have learned some strange technique. But such things don't work on me. At that moment, a huge Immimanjiang with the face of a hippopotamus about 20 jang tall and 4 arms leaped over the fallen Immimanjiang towards the heavenly demon, swinging the spiked clubs in all its hands simultaneously. Its momentum was so fierce that the sound of air being torn could be heard along with pressure waves that shook the surroundings. However, swish! As the heavenly demon casually waved his hand. Whack! The body of the hippopotamus-headed Immimanjiang shot upwards and pierced through the ceiling of the great hall. Quack-quack-quack-wang. The Immimanjiang, with its upper body stuck, kicked its legs a few times before going limp. How can this be? What on earth did he do? At this sight, the other Immimanjiang of demonic beast rank who were about to charge at the heavenly demon stopped and hesitated. At that moment, an Immimanjiang in human form with owl-like whiskers and wings stepped forward and spoke. You're no ordinary human. It's been a long time since the ancient immortals that someone could handle our kindred so easily with just overwhelming energy. Xing. With those words, the owl-whiskered Immimanjiang folded its wings and drew a large hunting knife from its waist. As he stepped forward, the Immimanjiang cheered with raised morale. Why, Lord Hyochi has stepped forward. To think we'd get to see one of the Iron Fan Immortal's 3 heroes take action. Spirit Beast Hyochi. There are ranks even among Immimanjiang. Starting from the lowest Fierce Beast, there are Monstrous Beast, Demonic Beast, and Diabolic Beast. And though few in number, there are Spirit Beasts whose power is said to be a disaster itself. Spirit Beast Hyochi was an owl Immimanjiang that had lived for over thousands of years. It was a being on a completely different level from ordinary Immimanjiang. The corners of the Iron Fan Immortal's mouth rose at the tremendous demonic power rising from Hyochi's body. It's been a while since I'll get to see Hyochi's demonic blade technique. I don't know what he is, but the 3 heroes have faced even the ancient immortals. Though not reaching the 6 demons who are said to be infinitely close to divine beasts, the power of upper-ranked spirit beasts among Immimanjiang is enough to blow away an entire mountain. Now that Spirit Beast Hyochi has stepped forward, even that guy will have to be tense. Thud thud. The heavenly demon, watching Spirit Beast Hyochi approach, opened his mouth. If you're in human form, we should be able to communicate at least. Do you think communication is possible after what you've done? Then let this be a warning. Warning? Huh. Even if you're Immimanjiang, to me, there's no difference in weight between you and humans or animals. So if you don't want unnecessary sacrifices, just hand over Red Boy. Papapapak. It was at that moment. As soon as the heavenly demon's words ended, another Immimanjiang in human form near the stone throne leaped over 20 jang in one step and shouted. How dare an arrogant human demand we hand someone over? I'll make you pay for casually mentioning our young master's name. Ooh. Lord Wang He has also stepped forward. That guy has dug his own grave. Spirit Beast Wang He. It had layered large eyes and a split jaw in the hideous form of pincers. Born in a swamp where millions of locusts died, it was one of the Iron Fan Immortal's 3 heroes and an Imi known as second only to Great Strength King in pure strength, with tremendous kicking power. Of course, the difference was quite large, but it was said to be able to split a small flowing river in an instant with just one kick. Goo goo. 2 spirit beasts approaching while exuding suffocating demonic power. Despite their tremendous pressure, the heavenly demon, still showing no change in expression, opened his mouth. That previous offer was quite merciful. What are you, Bab? Snap. Kook. Spirit Beast Wang He's layered eyes trembled. This was because the heavenly demon, who had been about 15 steps away until just now, had suddenly approached and was gripping its neck. This bastard. Bulge. After a moment of surprise, Spirit Beast Wang He's thigh muscles swelled greatly in anger. The power bursting from its thighs and calves, which had thickened like tree trunks, was enough to split a river, and it flew towards the heavenly demon's head. Pong. Quack-quack-quack-quang. The moment the kick connected, the ground on the opposite side of where the head was destroyed in a fan shape due to the force of the impact. Naturally, they thought his head would have been blown away, but this crazy. His calf was caught in the heavenly demon's left hand. The gripping strength was so strong that his hand was digging into the calf that he prided as being harder than steel. Crunch. Cuff. The heavenly demon spoke indifferently to him as he writhed in pain. I didn't bring my wife here. Do you know what that means? Kuo. What on earth are you? It means I don't care if this place is dyed entirely in blood. Flinch. For a moment, Spirit Beast Wang He felt chills all over his body at the tremendous killing intent flowing from the heavenly demon's voice. Is this really killing intent that can be felt from a human? But at that very moment, let go of that hand. Swoosh. Spirit Beast Hyochi, appearing from the right side, swung his large hunting knife to cut off the heavenly demon's right arm that was gripping Spirit Beast Wang He's neck. However, before that could happen, the heavenly demon twisted Spirit Beast Wang He's body to the right, and chop. Kaok. The hunting knife ended up digging into Spirit Beast Wang He's shoulder instead. Oh no. Spirit Beast Hyochi hurriedly tried to control his demonic power and pull the hunting knife out of Spirit Beast Wang He's shoulder, but before he could do so, something struck his face. Pong. Quang. This caused Spirit Beast Hyochi's body to be flung backwards. The force was so strong that Spirit Beast Hyochi rolled over 20 jang, smashing the floor, and couldn't stop. Cuff. Hup. What stopped him was the narrow-eyed, long gray-haired Imi Manjiang in human form who was near the stone throne. The gray-haired Imi Manjiang who stepped forward to prevent him from flying to the throne caught Spirit Beast Hyochi's body, but hack. Swish. He was pushed back, splitting the floor due to the force of the impact. Quite sturdy. The heavenly demon threw down something he was holding onto the floor. Thud chop. Kukakakakak. Green blood splattered. The thing that had hit Spirit Beast Hyochi's face was none other than Spirit Beast Wang He's torn off thigh. Spirit Beast Wang He, whose thigh had been torn off, screamed unable to bear the pain. Kukakakakak. Noisy. Ka. You bastard. Spirit Beast Wang He finally tried to manifest his true form in anger. Just as his body was about to be dyed in green light. Crunch. The heavenly demon casually tore off his neck. The Imi Manjiang watching this were left speechless at what happened in an instant. The head of Spirit Beast Wang He, who met his death with his neck torn off in human form without even being able to manifest his true form. That head was in the heavenly demon's palm. How? How could Lord Wang He fall so easily? Is this guy really human? The humans they knew were beings with clear limitations. But to easily kill a spirit beast, considered the highest rank even among Imi-Manjiang, this completely transcended the category of humans. No, could he really be an ancient immortal? Crack! At that moment, the sound of something breaking was heard. The gazes of the Imi-Manjiang all turned towards that place. Tremble! They saw the Iron Fan immortal trembling while gripping the broken armrest of the stone throne. With a reddened face and heat emanating even from her eyes, she stood up from her seat. How dare he? Who would have thought that one of her 3 heroes, who were like her limbs and among the few who survived the war with the ancient immortals, would die so easily? Seeing her angry appearance, the faces of the nearby Imi-Manjiang turned pale. Though called the Iron Fan immortal, her true name was Rakshasi or Nakaleo, a great spirit beast comparable to those with the title of 6 demons. After the Great Strength King was sealed, she had quietly gone into seclusion, but if she moved, she too was an Imi-Manjiang that could be called a great calamity for the Central Plains. It would be difficult to handle if someone like her became angry. Iron Fan immortal, please calm down. The narrow-eyed, long gray-haired Imi-Manjiang in human form tried to stop her. This was because if she lost her reason and went berserk in anger, even the surrounding Imi-Manjiang could be swept up and endangered. Are you telling me to calm down now? It was at that moment. A blurry shadow deepened, and suddenly the heavenly demon had approached in front of her. You bastard! The Iron Fan immortal, who had been barely suppressing her anger knowing better than anyone the repercussions her fury would cause, finally couldn't hold back and reached out her heated hand towards the heavenly demon. However, before that hand could reach him, her wrist was caught by the heavenly demon. The Iron Fan immortal's eyes trembled. The heat emanating from her in her anger was comparable to the heat of lava. Cheek! In fact, the heat coming from her hand was rapidly heating up the surroundings. Yet this man before her was grasping it without any problem. The only ones capable of such a feat were her husband Great Strength King and her child Red Boy. Side Story 3. The Flame Mountain. Part 4. Sizzle. Heavenly Demon casually held Iron Fan Immortal's wrist, which was burning hot. Feeling her pride wounded, Iron Fan Immortal tried to increase the heat even more to force him to let go. The heat was so intense that the stone throne and surroundings began to melt, causing nearby lesser demons to retreat in panic. Yet Heavenly Demon remained expressionless, seemingly unaffected by the heat. What the hell is this guy? Surprised by his unexpected reaction, Iron Fan Immortal stared at Heavenly Demon as he spoke. Are you Hong Hei, 1's mother? Who the hell are you? Why are you looking for my child? Like any parent, she fiercely loved her child. So when Heavenly Demon mentioned Hong Hei, her face twisted into a fierce expression befitting her name as a Rakshasa woman. Of course, Heavenly Demon didn't care about this at all. Where is Hong Hei? You bastard! Iron Fan Immortal's anger rose at Heavenly Demon's arrogant attitude, completely ignoring her question and only asking about Hong Hei. She no longer held back and revealed her true power. I'll kill you. Boom. As soon as she finished speaking, something erupted from the heated floor. It was lava. The lava that burst forth over 10 jang wide swallowed them up in an instant, then pierced through the ceiling of the Great Hall and even through the cave of Plantain Leaf Peak as it rose. Boom 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 boom. This is bad. Iron Fan Immortal has finally gone berserk. Everyone evacuate the hall. The lesser demons fled the hall building in a panic at this sight. Once Iron Fan Immortal, a great spirit beast on par with the 6 demons, went berserk, the collapse of the hall and cave was all but certain. If it just collapsed, it wouldn't be a big problem for the high-ranking lesser demons. But if she went berserk, the surrounding area would be covered in lava. However, whoosh! The fleeing lesser demons stopped in their tracks. The lava that they thought would surely consume the entire hall was suddenly subsiding. Then, as the lava settled, 2 figures emerged along with the smoke. They were Heavenly Demon and Iron Fan Immortal. But the lesser demons couldn't hide their bewilderment at this sight. This was because Iron Fan Immortal could be seen kneeling on one knee, her captured wrist bent painfully. Arg. Ugh. Black veins like tree roots were spreading from her hand that had been glowing red, due to the invasion of demonic energy. It wasn't just demonic energy that had invaded internally. A blade-like sword energy was cutting through each nerve, causing pain so severe that even Iron Fan Immortal, who had lived for thousands of years, could barely endure it. Seeing her convulsing as if electrocuted, some of the lesser demons couldn't stand by and tried to rush in. Iron Fan Immortal. Let go of her hand. But Iron Fan Immortal gestured for them not to come, so they had to stop midway. How? Iron Fan Immortal shook her head painfully at their anxious looks. No. If they had rushed in out of loyalty to help her, they would have been instantly annihilated by this man's hand. Convulsing from the demonic energy and sword energy invading her body, she looked up at Heavenly Demon. His eyes were still utterly indifferent. Gasp. That made her even more terrified. Just what is this guy's identity? No matter how she looked at him, he wasn't one of their kind. But he's too strong. As someone who had directly experienced the ancient immortals long ago, she knew most beings, but she had never seen anyone with this kind of power. Even her husband couldn't easily subdue her when she went berserk without transforming into her true form or using the great demon subduing treasure, the plant and leaf fan. Yet this man was effortlessly suppressing her. He didn't even seem to be using his full strength. It's like looking at that stone monkey bastard. Overwhelming strength. She had felt that from the stone monkey Sun Wukong. A monster that even the great strength king, considered the strongest of the 6 demons, couldn't handle. A being born from the convergence of all the energies of heaven and earth. Though the nature of their power was different, this was the first time since then that she had felt such pressure from someone. Ha, ha. Just what are you? I've never heard of a being like you in thousands of years. For a moment, her eyes met Heavenly Demon's. In that split second, something pierced her mind and she saw a huge avatar of black flames before her eyes. Her whole body trembled at the dark flames that seemed deeper than the abyss. What the hell is this? How can something like this be inside a human form? I am Heavenly Demon. I rule over all 10,000 demons, and am the black flames darker than the abyss. You, just what are you? This is my final act of mercy. If you bring Hong Hei and hand over what's mine, I'll spare your life and your child's. What does he want Hong Hei to hand over? Could he be talking about him who was said to be sealed by the killing stone? Then does this guy have some connection to the white-faced king? You. What's your relationship with the white-faced king? You don't have the right to ask me questions. If you don't accept the mercy given, you'll only suffer the consequences. Shut up. Who are you to tell me and my child what to do with him? Heavenly Demon's eyes turned cold at her outburst. He had tried to instill fear in her with overwhelming pressure to make her do as he wanted, but befitting someone who had lived for thousands of years, she had strong mental fortitude. Moreover, perhaps due to her maternal love for her child, she was fiercely resisting instead. Though his child wasn't born yet, Heavenly Demon could somewhat understand her emotional turmoil as a parent with a child. But then, her entire body except for the wrist directly invaded by his demonic energy began to glow red as heat surged. Sizzle. Neither he nor my child can be touched. Snap. With that cry, Iron Fan Immortal grabbed Heavenly Demon's legs and hugged him tightly. It wasn't just heat that was surging rapidly. It was demonic power. The fact that it was rising even higher than her original demonic power meant she was converting all of her life force into demonic power. Iron Fan Immortal, you can't. Realizing that Iron Fan Immortal was trying to sacrifice herself in a mutual destruction technique, one of the 3 heroes, the gray-haired Spirit King Ash-faced Demon, too, flew towards her to try and stop her. Whoosh! Ah! But before he could approach, a curtain of red heat blocked him, preventing him from getting closer. This was a wall created by Iron Fan Immortal. Unlike when she went berserk, she was now only thinking of killing the opponent before her, so she made this choice to prevent her subordinate lesser demons from being harmed. Of course, this was also to concentrate all the heat in one place to double its power. Iron Fan Immortal spoke in a meaningful voice. Let's die together in heat hotter than lava. A sacrifice for your kin? Even if the Heavenly Emperor came, he couldn't touch my child. Crack. Her skin, transformed like lava, split open and red light poured out. It looked like it would burst at any moment. But then... snap. Heavenly Demon grabbed Iron Fan Immortal's face with his palm as she clung to his legs. Iron Fan Immortal sneered and shouted. It's useless. This is heat from burning all of my demonic power. No one can extinguish. Whoosh. Before she could finish speaking, the blazing heat from her surging demonic power began to be rapidly absorbed into Heavenly Demon's palm. No. Just as she was about to explode, the heat rapidly drained away, and she couldn't hide her bewilderment. No. No. Sensing something was wrong, she tried to force herself to explode in this state. However, whoosh. At that moment, her brain was severely shaken by the vibrations coming through Heavenly Demon's palm, and she lost consciousness. Not missing this chance, Heavenly Demon absorbed all the heat from her body. The absorbed heat was indeed beyond imagination. Hot. Since this wasn't heat that could be converted into energy within the body, snap. He raised his hand and released all the heat. Boom. The lava-like heat erupting from Heavenly Demon's hand pierced through Plantain Leaf Peak, even destroying Tsuiyun Mountain as it soared high into the sky. Chong Ryong, watching this from a mountaintop not far from Tsuiyun Mountain, smirked. So much for ending it quietly. Boom 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 boom. Seeing that red pillar of heat soaring into the sky after smashing a whole mountain, it seemed he was really making a mess. He had some idea, since she was said to be a great spirit beast on par with the 6 demons. That it wouldn't end quietly, that is. It wasn't long before Iron Fan Immortal regained consciousness. Having used up all her demonic power, her hair had turned white and her face was haggard as if weathered by time. Of course, even so, she still looked like a noble lady. But exhausted beyond measure, she was lost in a daze, staring at the sky visible through the gaping hole. The hole was so large, spanning dozens of jang, that it was embarrassing to even call it a mountain anymore. But more than this, what made her feel truly dejected was Heavenly Demon's appearance. She had tried to cause a mutual destruction by exploding thousands of years' worth of accumulated demonic power, but she hadn't even singed a hair on his head, let alone his clothes. This is a being that even he couldn't handle if he came. Iron Fan Immortal had immense pride in her husband. Wasn't he the one whom even the ancient immortals couldn't defeat and had to join forces to seal? But this man's strength was truly transcendental. Even if her husband transformed into his true form and used the great demon subduing treasure, the Plantain Leaf Fan, could he really handle this monster? No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't picture such a scenario. But still, what wife, what mother would sell out her husband and child? Just kill me instead. She had no intention of surrendering. She was simply worried about them facing this monster, more than she feared death. Step, step. As Heavenly Demon approached, she took a deep breath, exhaled, and closed her eyes, resigned to death. Then Heavenly Demon's hand touched her head. Is this how I'll be annihilated? But then... You keep your mouth shut well. I'll acknowledge that maternal love. At these words from Heavenly Demon, she didn't budge. She thought there was no way someone targeting her child would show mercy like this. So she responded strongly. Then kill me without dishonoring me. No, I can't do that. What? She frowned and opened her eyes. Heavenly Demon bent down and whispered in her ear. As it happens, there are many vacancies for spirit servants. What is this bastard saying now? Spirit servants? Is he talking about how diviners and Taoists form connections with and control our kind? Is he saying he'll do to me what only lower-ranking demons suffer? Realizing this, her eyes widened in shock, but Heavenly Demon formed a hand seal with his left hand and said with a smile full of malice, "Let's see how well Hong Hei listens to her mother."